see you. All right.
Great. So, I know you've done 1,000 of these, but as a reminder, my voice is not going to be included. So if you could just answer in complete sentences. So if I say, oh, tell me a little bit about the training that you guys do, you could say, like, in terms of training, or you could say, like, when it comes to training, you could say, it's intense. No one would know
right.
what it's from. And if there's a question I ask that doesn't really resonate with you, you can be like, that doesn't really resonate with me, and I'm thankful that that's fine. And I'll try and be efficient. Do you prefer to wear the mask during the interview, or are you okay to take it off? You got such a nice face. And then for tomorrow, what time should we be here?
We'll be here between 1 and 2 o'clock. We're starting to down there. We're only 4 or 5 blocks down the street. So we're going to sleep down here. We're going to go right here. We're going to have just keep them up here. I'm not sure where the media is going to stay. We've already had the press for that. But we're good.
And then Turkey said we could see the kind of weapons inspection, the safety briefing stuff at Grandmaster.
That's going to happen around 12. Between 12 and 1 o'clock. We're informing everybody between 12 and 1 o'clock.
Okay, so we don't need to be here like 7 or anything.
That's going to be down here.
Yeah.
We'll be in the park.
Okay.
We'll be up there.
All right. Cool. Perfect.
Yes.
And you'll just look at me. It'll be a lot like the conversation.
I will call in.
We'll start easy. Can you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
I'm coming back. I just want to give you a
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to keep you down.
Sorry.
They're cool. They would make.
Okay.
Just for the other folks. Yeah. If you could just keep the other folks back.
I know about some charges.
That'd be great. You can just look at me.
No, it's 60.
The leader of the NFAC, most of us know is not around truth. Militia that have to run through the largest all-black militias globally in this country. But other than that, I have self-background, I got physical background, a political background, activism background, and also a political background. All of those shape me as a black man in America. That's the person that I am.
When we were on the phone, I loved you kind of gave me a good history lesson, starting with what you were starting to notice in 2012, 2014, which led you, it was a bit of your origin story. That's how you kind of coalesced around the NFAC. I was wondering if you could walk me through that.
Sure, if I had to talk a little bit about the history of what coalesced and what brought me to this place, it was a number of things. The first thing was, see, I come from a generation where we thought most of this had stopped. We thought that we had grown most of this. We were under the impression that some of the things that we saw during Jim Crow, during the era where we had drugs inside of our communities and mass incarceration, we thought those things were gone. 2014, they came back with a vengeance. And when they did, they were high-profile shootings. A lot of those are now historical events. That woke up a certain demographic in our community. Not just the young kids that were throwing rocks, not just the people who were singing it, but those of us who could actually do something about it. We kind of thought that things would change. And instead, they got worse. So that was the catalyst for me to first become involved in the activism. The same thing these folks behind me are doing right now. The singing, the holding hands, the chanting, thinking that would change. It didn't change anything. Instead, things got worse.
Yeah, I gotta.
We're just gonna fix your mic real quick.
Mind counting to 5 for me one more time?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4, 3, 2, 1.
I got you. Thank you.
Thank you. So you thought that we were done with all that, and we were not. Is what you were saying.
We thought that things would change.
Right.
We thought that the amount of protesting that we saw would make a difference. We thought that we had raised the bar enough that the government would understand that the people out here today are not the people from yesterday. That if they didn't want a stronger response, that through the legislature and the changing of the laws and the forming of the police, that something would change. But instead, in 2006, there was a report that came out from the FBI that white supremacists would begin to infiltrate law enforcement and the military. And it happened. You see the fruits of that today. So things didn't get better, they got worse. And then when we had all these movements that talked about they were going to affect change, and we saw this dialogue with the government, but we saw no change in law. We saw no decrease in police brutality. We saw no redistribution of wealth. We saw nothing. And eventually we have a president now who wants to take us back to those days. So I have to raise that question. When was America great for us? Never. And then on top of that, we started seeing things we hadn't seen in 60 years. Police shootings that were obviously racially motivated, swept under the rug. Lynchings even started showing up again. Our men, our women, our children being brutalized by the police, not even calling them female officers. No, we sat back and we watched that. And slowly we started to watch, pardon my language, you people arm yourselves. And then act like if we arm ourselves, it wasn't a problem. So that led us down the path that, you know what? There are 4 levels to this. Level 1 is when people get pissed off and tear stuff up. That's why they got these windows boarded up.
Like I say,
Level 2, when they start marching in the streets, like they're doing right now. Level 3 are people who decide to leave the place because everybody's been in quarantine poverty. So people want some stuff. Has nothing to do with what happened. The city's already tore up. That's why they decided to come out and get stuff. And everybody thinks that's the end of it. And everybody goes back home until somebody else gets shot or stabbed or killed, or there's another lie by the judicial system. But there's a 4th level that they didn't see coming. And that's those of us that we're not nothing tricky in the street. We're your ex-military. We're your homeowners. We're your gun owners. We're your voters. And when we got pissed off, we organized ourselves. What you saw manifest is what sits before you now. The NFAC.
Amazing. Take me back to the presidential bid. Why did you run? And what was a little bit different about your approach then as it maybe is now?
In the beginning, back in 2015, after we had the murder of Walter Scott in Charleston, South Carolina, I participated in an effort along with Senator Pinckney to get body cams placed on every police officer in South Carolina. I thought I had developed a relationship with the Department of Justice. I thought I had developed a relationship with the sitting governor. And I thought I had developed a relationship with the activists that we could then use that as a model to spread across America. Instead, what we saw was a few months later, Senator Pinckney was killed. Even though they didn't call it that, they said it was a preacher sitting in his church with 9 people. Some guy just came in and started shooting everybody. That was a hit. It was retaliation for what we had done. So when I returned to Charleston for the funeral, President Barack Obama was there, along with Michelle, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and everybody else, including all the members of Congress and all the members of the House of Representatives, including the senator for this state, Ms. McConnell. I shook hands and kissed babies with all of them. And at that moment, I had an idea. Since we can't seem to get ourselves together to make you change the laws, why don't I just run for the presidency myself and utilize executive authority and create an agency? And if someone gets shot by a cop, it immediately goes to the federal government. It doesn't go into the hands of these people out here. And that they make a decision and it becomes federal right off the gate. That was my goal. So I declared my candidacy for the presidency. And as you can tell, they did a good job of blocking that out. We had no idea that we were running. There were 24 of us, and we had no idea. Now guess what happened? Look what you got. Look what has happened.
Tell me what you learned from the system by running.
Well, the first thing I learned was that it takes more money than you can imagine, because everybody has to get paid. Not only for you to pay for the polls, to pay to be on the ballot, to pay to actually campaign, to pay to the commission on debates, to put you on TV so you can get people to donate. It's like a vicious cycle. But what we also found out is you have to grease the right pockets. 10,000 here, 150,000 here, 200,000 here, 1.5 million here, $100 million, and you might not even win. If the government will match you with campaign funds, I learned that too. As much as you raise, they'll match you. It's your money. But then I also found out that they wanted you to say what they wanted you to say. You see, I got in this to help my people. Because everybody who gets tips from Barack Obama doesn't realize he did nothing for us specifically. He did stuff that we could enjoy for everybody else. But he did that for blacks, whites, us, Latinos, humpbacks, whales, everybody. But nothing specifically for black people.
You talk about people asking things of Trump that they never asked for Obama. So
Well, no. I never said that. Let me make a correction. You see, the head game, if I can be so elaborate just for a second for your viewers here, is that every presidential candidate receives 2 mandates. You all know nothing about it. They receive a domestic mandate and they receive an international mandate. The domestic mandate for Barack Obama was to mesmerize black people into thinking that we had finally arrived. And so they wouldn't ask him to do anything except be happy that he was black. And that's exactly what they did. Oh, we got a black president, and didn't ask him to do shit. Pardon my language. When that happened, pardon my language, the white folks said, well, guess what? You had 8 years to get your stuff fixed. And you didn't ask him to do anything. So when we put who we put in there, don't ask him for anything. You had your time, and that's exactly what they're doing. We're not going to get anything from him. You had your time, and you didn't ask him for nothing. How you going to ask me? That's the mentality.
and you can swear all you want because it's Caitlin, so. So now I got a bunch of questions about the NFAC. What is the NFAC? Who is the NFAC for?
The NFAC, the Not Fucking Around Coalition, is an organization that was created by and for American citizens to protect the black community. Not to attack anybody, not to terrorize anybody, not to go door to door and kill people like some people have done to us, but to protect our people, protect our communities, self-police our own communities, train our people on not only being responsible gun owners, but being responsible gun users. There's a difference knowing when to pull out a gun, when not to pull out a gun, knowing what type of gun to pull out for what type of situation, and knowing how to organize yourselves to fight a battle against more than one people at the same time. That was the intent, the original purpose. Since then, it has grown into an international conglomerate that now is involved in several actions around the world. They always follow me.
You try to find the crowd everywhere you go.
Yeah.
I believe it. I'm going to start doubling up questions because I know you're good at remembering them. What makes an NFAC militia, and how many members do you have?
Why would you sit there and ask me a question about what makes us a militia and how many members do we have? First, we learned our lessons from COINTELPRO. We learned our lessons from Operation Messiah. We don't tell you how many of us there are. We don't tell you who we are. I'm the face. That's all you need to know. I've been out here for a while, so why hide behind the mask? As far as why we're militia, why don't you go ask all these other white militias why they're a militia? Because the Constitution says that citizens can form an organized militia so that they can confront the government with a list of their grievances. Nobody has confronted the government in the form of militia for our grievances. All we do is protest and ask and come talk to the city council and say, please stop killing us. Please change the laws. And they say, oh, okay, but that's not the purpose of a militia. The purpose of a militia is to back up what you want. Either give us what we want. This is the alternative.
Now, why are you a militia? What makes you a militia?
Well, according to the definition of a militia, it's an armed group of citizens that are prepared to defend a certain position using firearms and tactics. So I guess that makes us a militia, or a very well-organized group of people with guns.
On the phone, you gave me a little overview, not about numbers, but who makes up the NFAC? Professional, ex-military, highly intelligent folks. Who are these people?
You know, when people ask us, who are we let them know at a very high level. We're ex-military, but not all of us. We are, all of us, legal gun owners, but not all of us. We are your homeowners. We're your co-workers. We are members of the black community that feel that a strong response is needed, and that we have to be able to defend ourselves because no one is defending it. That's who we are.
Does NFAC have a political affiliation?
The NFAC does not have a political affiliation. The NFAC, matter of fact, one of our goals is to cooperate in the creation, not of a political affiliation, but of an organization that will only endorse or honor the platform that the consensus of the black community comes to as the top 5 things affecting us. We have to conduct a survey of every black person and then figure out what the top 5 concerns, not what they tell us is wrong with us, but what we feel needs to be worked on. And anybody who wants our money or our vote or anything like that has to make this a part of their platform, or we won't deal with them at all. Every other group does that. The Jewish PAC does that. You have to go sit in front of them and tell them that you will enact their agenda for them all to vote for you. That's what we would like to see. We don't want to join up with the red blue pill. We don't believe in that. We don't want to join with anybody who already exists. We think that 45 million people is enough to form our own voting organization.
Tell me a little bit about the origin story of the name of the Not Fucking Around Coalition.
The name for the Not Fucking Around, true is how it started. It comes from a movie. If you've ever seen the movie The Town with Ben Affleck, it's the story of a bunch of bank robbers in Boston that could never be caught, no matter what they did, and they still lived in Boston. There's a scene where the lead cop, the hero of the story, the smart guy, comes in, and there's been a bank robbery. And he looks at everything that happened, and cops are everywhere trying to figure out what happened. And he starts to shut them down, and he says this. No fingerprints, right? He said, nah, they used bleach. He says, they left the dye packs, didn't they? He said, they didn't take not one of them. He said, let me guess, they found the vehicle somewhere burned up. He said, yeah, they did. He said, look here, y'all. These guys are good. As a matter of fact, they're the not fucking around crew. So we need to find out who it is, because it's not fucking around. It's about to go both ways. But that's where the name comes from, because let me explain something. The not fucking around is our attitude right now of black America. We're not fucking around with your excuses anymore. We're not fucking around with your apologies anymore. We're not fucking around anymore with you telling us to wait on the system. We're not fucking around being treated like secondhand citizens. We're not fucking around with having the cops called on us as a weapon. We're not fucking around when someone tells us to calm down while people continue to act violent against us. We're just not fucking around with anymore.
How does an understanding of the U.S. military structure help inform the understanding of the infrastructure of the NFAC? Like, you are a commander. Like, there are local battalions, commands. How does it work?
Those of us who are ex-military understand command and structure. We understand how to follow instructions without question. We know how to be on code so everybody has the same focus. We don't fight amongst ourselves because we know we have one enemy. So we're structured the same way that I sit as the commander of the entire organization. There are people under me, and so forth under them, and so forth under them. The only difference is every one of them is a leader. So if you take me out, it won't stop. There's somebody ready to take my place, and his place, and his place. We're in the group of leaders, not that people follow.
How would somebody hear about NFAC and and what's required of members? An oath, training. Obviously, they're all, not all, but if they own guns, they're legal gun owners.
The qualifications to join the NFAC are twofold. We have two sides. On the one side, you have to be, first of all, black. First, you have to be black. And a lot of folks get bent out of shape and say, oh, they're all black. Well, the Klan was all white. Nobody said shit, okay? But the reason we're all black is because of what Malcolm X said. Is that you can help us, but you can't join us. Because until we learn to love each other, we can't agree to love another race. So we got to get used to doing things on our own, by ourselves, for ourselves. So the first qualification is you have to be black. The second qualification, you have to be 21. Okay? Most folks under 21 don't have the mental fortitude in the military how to function in a high combat situation when someone's getting their head blown off next to them. The other piece is the requirement is we prefer that you be ex-military, but if not, be trainable. Not be egotistical, not have a vendetta, not want to be a hothead, but be trainable. But the other requirement is you cannot be a police officer, period. You cannot have worked for the Department of Corrections, period. Last but not least, we don't discriminate against male or female. We have male and female. We don't slice by sex. You're just black. And if you can't be just black, then we can't fuck with you. That's why we don't fuck with BLM.
Keep going on that for a while.
No, I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to finish answering your question. As far as training and so forth, there's a vetting process. We do background checks. We make sure that you're properly, tell us you have a CCP. We're going to check that. Because we don't want these folks to have any reason to approach us.
Why?
Hold on, excuse me. Security on perimeter. Security on perimeter. Locked and loaded. Level 3. And the reason for that is that any perceived threat against us is met with deadly force. And that requires training and focus. The last piece is our training is confidential. Where we train is confidential. That's why we don't accept donations. We practice food economics like Claude Anderson said. We put all of our money back into this organization. That way, no one owns us. We don't accept corporate donations. So there's an agenda. That's all I'll tell you about the NFAC as far as its infrastructure.
Why not ex-cops or current cops? Why not ex-corrections? And why not people who may also align with another militia, a local militia?
Because as I said before, we're the NFAC. We developed our own culture. We all come from a common thread. Now, the police have a culture that you can see reflected. Look at what's happening with Breonna Taylor. That's a culture. When you don't fill out reports, when everybody gets fucking amnesia, when other people are walking around acting like they don't know what happened, and then it's systemic that you have it infecting your prosecutor's office, that's a culture. You can't just take off the badge and not take off the mentality the same way we took off the uniform and we're still soldiers. So no, anybody who had anything to do with what happened to our people, we cannot even faith trust you inside of our organization. Now on a case-by-case basis, you gotta have a serious track record for us to consider that. As far as the Department of Corrections, you still were our people while they were in cages. We're only, 24% of the population at this point? And we're almost 55% incarcerated. There's something wrong with that. So don't tell me you suddenly woke up one day and now all of a sudden these brothers that's been locked down, you suddenly want to do something for them. Then get them out. We're not going to put a gun in your hand to fight the people you work for.
Tell me the difference between a thing that you'd show up for as NFAC and a thing that is not you don't demonstrate, you don't protest, that's not your thing. Tell me. On the camera, because I know, but explain the difference between something that you support in members and bodies and something that is not for you.
There's a street saying, you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. You do something stupid and it ends up batting for you, we don't give a shit. Because you should have thought about it. We're smart. We're not a bunch of people with guns. We're all highly intelligent. So we look at the whole story. We don't just look at what video you send us. We want to know everything that happened. How did this start? Because if you escalated it yourself and now you want to cry wolf, don't call us. That's not what we're here for. We're proactive. We try to train the young brothers that when you run into the cops, this is what you say, what you don't say. This is how you know if they already going to escalate. This is why you don't fight the process sometimes. You understand what I'm saying? But when something happens that is completely off the reservation, and it looks like the powers to be are disrespecting the people, or if you make a threat against the people, like we did in Stone Mountain, they threatened all black people. So there needed to be an all black people response. But what's happening here is the people are being disrespected. They haven't done anything to these people per se. They've done something to all of them per se, because that could have been any of us. So when you don't follow the rules that you've written, now all of a sudden what we need to do is this. The people said they have a question. We want to get an answer on behalf of the people. Because if you don't answer them, they go home. If you don't answer us, somebody's going to the morgue.
This, I mean, thank you. Tell me a little bit about the legacy of armed black militias in the U.S. and how you see. The question will be, if you could tell me a little bit about the legacy of armed black militias in the U.S. and where you see the NFAC fitting into that legacy. As soon as Ryland gets out of the way.
When you talk about the legacy of black militia, you have to go back almost 50 years to the Deacons of Defense, who were the last truly black militia. I'm not talking black gangs, I'm not talking gun clubs. That's not a militia. Gun clubs serve a completely different purpose, and we're aligned with a lot of those gun clubs. But when you talk about a black militia, you're talking about a militarized organization that is determined to defend a particular point of view or a particular group of people. We are currently the largest black militia on the planet right now because of our alliances. So there's no comparison. Because there has not been a time like this. Let me clarify what I mean by that. Most people will say to you, Martin Luther King was nonviolent. No, he wasn't. Go and study what he said. What he said was, it was a fight we could not win. We were outnumbered. We were outgunned. We weren't even considered full human beings by the law. So it would have been a slaughter. So he went the easy route. 5 years later, after he gave his oblivious I Have a Dream speech, he said in 1968 to NBC that I think my dream has become a nightmare, and that we integrated into a burning house, and then they killed him. So when we start talking about a black militia today, look at the difference. We're educated. We know the law. We're well armed. We're well financed. We've built coalitions. We are now in a position to become what the United States has done to every other country. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. You see, the U.S. likes to go into other countries and find guys like us and say, hey, you got a beef with the government? We'll give you everything you need. We'll give you missiles, choppers, jeeps, and anything you need. We'll call you freedom fighters. And you can go fight your government. But they can't do that if there's no one to go do it with. The world saw NFAC come out, and immediately Russia, Iran, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and a whole host of countries called us and said, hey, like what you doing? Need some help?
Are you surprised that you're the only real organized black militia in the U.S., given everything that's been going on?
I'm going to answer this very carefully. Because when you're building coalitions, you don't want to piss people off that you might have to work with. All I'll say to you is this. We've done more in 2 months to unite the world, to arm my own people, to get them thinking about buying guns. 52% of gun sales in this last half a year alone exceeded all gun sale records for the last 10 years.
I think it's
We've got
58%.
people now clumping together to fight the police back when they see they're clearly wrong. We've got the conversation now where people are, we don't want to bring rainbows and signs no more. We want to bring clips and Berettas. Woo! We've done this in 2 months. And now we've announced that we're walking into a major metropolitan city. And they rolled out the red carpet at the same time they boarded up the window. And they told the white militia that we're going to have to keep you from them. The same way in Stone Mountain, they evacuated the park. closed the park and didn't let anyone in while we were in there, and told them if we let you in there, they outnumber us. The reason that we are here now is because, as I said before, things have gotten so bad that it's like 1966 all over again. So guess what? You can't bring back part of the 60s unless you bring back all of the 60s.
That's right.
And that's who we are here.
That's right. That's right.
You mentioned some of the other militias. Militias feel very American. You know, when I think of a militia, I think of maybe a white dude with a beard in the backwoods of Virginia with, whatever. You are not that, obviously. Can you talk a little bit about how NFAC sees the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers, the Sons of Liberty? Is there any common ground there? Do you think you'd ever be on the same side of a fence line? I'll let you just go.
You know, you asked a loaded question. If you had asked me this last week, it would have just been a quick answer. But since you asked it today, you opened the door for me to address something that everybody out here already knows about. There's a false rumor floating around that the NFAC had joined up with the Boogaloo Boys. That's a lie. The Boogaloo Boys sent an email to us. They wanted to offer up an olive branch. They wanted to be at peace with us because we called them out at Stone Mountain, because we were threatened by every white militia group. That's what the report said. So we called out the 3%ers. We called out the Boogaloo Boys. We called out the Ku Klux Klan. We called out everybody that had a problem with my melanin. And they weren't there. So I'll say this when you talk about these other militias. You see, when you see those militias you just described, a handful over here, and they got a problem with, let's say, being kept in the house. Then you got another group over here, they upset about black people. Then you got a group over here, they just don't like Thursdays. But see, the difference between all of them and us is that we have one common enemy. That's why there's so many of us. We don't care what they upset about. It's what matters to us that's important. So we don't have an opinion on them. If they want peace with us, let it be peace. But if they want war with us, then let it be war. Either way, we're going to enjoy it.
I spent some time the other week with a couple Boogaloo Boys who it felt to me, not all, but some of them were perhaps co-opting some of the language of the BLM movement, the language of the left. It felt a little weird to be in their presence while they were doing this. Again, not all, but some. Do you find any of their approaches problematic for that reason?
No, we don't have any concerns. Let me say this. The NFAC is solid. We're not worried. We don't receive threats. We don't care.
Would you be the person that would be making a call to arms at an event, or could that come from a few different members of the organization?
Our rules of engagement when it comes to our organization, depending on the situation, depends on whether or not it's one of our state chapters, one of our regional chapters, our national chapter, or our international chapters. For instance, the Pan-African French Resistance, which is a completely separate arm of us that's in France. Kevin Sema could make the call to arms there and then request backup from the United States, and then we'd all go there and join them. That's a global call. But the person who has the ultimate call, whether it be global, whether it be statewide, whether it be in this city, is me. I can stand us up and I can sit us down. So, but no one's going to make that call for a call to arms. However, our rules of engagement are this. We don't threaten anyone. We don't point our weapons at anyone. We don't intimidate anyone. But if you intimidate us by pointing a weapon at us, we will kill you. We will not injure you. We will kill you.
There's a trope that exists that black people with guns are scary. Are you fighting that, relying on that, a little bit of both?
There is a book by Mike Burrell called Brainwash. And in that book, he talks about the inferiority complex that's been ingrained into our psyche, so that you start to believe certain things without wondering why you believe it. For instance, when you see a black man with a gun, it's been ingrained into your psyche. Something must be wrong. He's up to no good. You don't realize where that programming came from. That programming comes from a book called Propaganda that was written in 1921. It's the same book that Hitler used to convict those folks in Germany that all of the Jews were the ones that they had to march off into the ovens. It's the same book that they used to convince you that fluoride was good for your teeth. It's the same book that they used to convince Americans that smoking was sexy. It's the same book that they use in PR to convince people that there's something wrong with black people, that we're all thugs and pimps and all our women are perpetual stupid hoes. That's the same book. So we read the book too.
Some militias are talking about, some talk about a civil war, some talk about a revolution, differentiating it as it's not citizen against citizen, it's citizens against government. Is that a revolution you would join? Is that a revolution you would lead?
If the United States became tyrannical, if the United States, as they're trying to do right now, attempting to put an ID chip in every person out here by way of a vaccination, if the United States began to limit our freedom that they're doing right now, by telling you when you're in a free country you got a curfew, when they're telling you you can only be on the street so long, or you can only, this is all control. If the United States moves to a tyranny like that, where they start to restrict all of our freedoms, then it would only be incumbent for all of us to fight back to the best of our ability. We wouldn't be joining anybody. We'd be fighting the same enemy that they would.
And let's talk a little bit about tomorrow. I know you've answered this a bit, but tell me, why are you here this weekend?
The reason that we're here, contrary to what everybody's saying, is we want an answer. We're not here to make something happen that hasn't already supposed to happen. We want what was supposed to happen to go ahead and happen. And the way we've done that is, before our arrival, I've already been in conversations with the Attorney General, with the Mayor's office, the Sheriff's Department, the Louisville Metro Police Department, the Governor's office, all the way up to Mitch McConnell's office. I've been talking to everybody. Not because I want to be happy with them. I want somebody to tell me the goddamn truth.
Yeah, that's right.
If it's that bad, then I can understand that. But the perception is reality. And the reality is, it looks to us like you don't give a shit. It looks to us like you ain't doing nothing. Right. It looks to us like you quit the charge other people just for sitting on the lawn with a felony. So yet, it's been 100 days and what's all this back and forth? And you're not telling us nothing. So the first reason we're here is to get transparency. To find out, listen, tell us what's going on. Can y'all just get together and tell us? And if it's that bad, let's tell the people. They can handle it. But this shit you're doing right here, if you don't do something about it soon, see all of this? Yeah. They gonna burn this bitch to the ground.
Let them know. Say it again.
You understand what I'm saying to you? And just don't nobody want to come tell you. I thought I'd stop by. And I brought a few of my friends with me to emphasize our point.
How would you describe the modern militia movement broadly today? Sorry, I'm doing a piece about militias, so sorry to keep going down that route.
How would I describe it?
Yes, sir.
You know, it's funny that they call themselves militias now. You know, because when it was Billy Bob and the Good Old Boys, riding around in pickup trucks, lynching brothers, they weren't militias then. When they were 25,000 strong, when they were 50,000 strong, when they marched down Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. in their Klan robes, forming a cross, they weren't a militia then. So I find it interesting that when black people decide to form and organize militia, all of a sudden they're militias too. So I don't care about what they call themselves, but I know what they're about. And what they're about is being against us. Being against all these melanated people out here. People that are supposed to be equal, but still looked at upon as property. So what do I think? I think that they're finally looking at someone that doesn't look like them, that's doing just what they do, that looks at them as a potential enemy.
There is a lot of information here that no one's been kind enough to share with anyone. You've been meeting with a lot of folks. How do you navigate being in a position where you do know some stuff? I think that folks have probably leveled with you a little bit more than the general public. How do you navigate that position when you are the leader of a movement that really wants answers?
It's called compromise. The way that I negotiate getting into this position to start with is you have to understand how we got here. We didn't just show up. We sat back and we watched. And we kept watching the temperature get higher and higher. And then we watched the protests and nothing happened. And then we watched these bullshit excuses given by this person that's supposed to be helping you. And then we watched the people's faces like, really? You just gonna piss on our face and keep calling it rain, huh? Mm-hmm. And then we got to the point where, you know what? It's time to make a phone call. No, fuck a phone call. It's time to pull up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we pull up, we want to talk to you. We don't want the bullshit. You see, we wouldn't be here if the people wasn't ready to hear the truth. We're not here because we want to hear the truth. We're here because they sick of waiting for the truth. So tell us the truth. And then we'll tell them, because they know we're not full of shit. Because you've proven to them that you are.
What would make a day like tomorrow successful? And I say a day like tomorrow because I imagine that this will not be the last time you guys show up at course. So a day like tomorrow, heaven forbid, we need to do this in a month from now. What'll make it successful?
You know, there is an old saying, you speak like an angel. Unfortunately, we live on earth. I don't expect anything miraculous to happen by tomorrow, though we have a track record. When we announced we were coming to Brunswick, within 2 hours they locked up the cops. So when we got there was nobody at home. We went to visit them. When we said we were coming here at first, they fired the guy. But then George Floyd happened. Everybody forgot about Breonna. So after they finished burning down Minneapolis, marching around the world and painting signs on streets and shit, and kneeling with the cops, we got back to this and everything stopped. So we're like, well, whoa, why is we pausing? What's happening? Well, that's because you have a bigger problem than just the death of Miss Taylor. So unless tomorrow they're going to march these 3 cops out of here in handcuffs, and then the mayor is marched off with them, and then all of those who sat on the council that have money invested in that gentrification project down the goddamn street. And all of the people here get to have their due in court for the improper things that have been done to them by secret police squads authorized by the mayor. See, it's deeper than just Miss Taylor. It's when the prosecutor's office is crooked.
What the fuck?
Y'all hold on a sec. I'm waiting on you, bro. So tomorrow, I have some things to deliver to the public after all of this process I've gone through. Because I told you I wanted transparency without jeopardizing the investigation. But some things have to be said to the people. And if you all don't have the backbone to say it, we'll say it. Or if what you're going to say is going to land your ass in jail, don't worry, I'll say it. Okay? Yeah? But this whole, now that the world spotlight is on Louisville, y'all notice I had to learn how to say Louisville. I say Louisville. They stopped me. They like, oh, brother, okay? The problems here are systemic. The corruption, the paid candidates, the ignoring of the needs of the people, the gentrification of their neighborhoods, which I call an invasion, not gentrification, displacement, the lack of jobs, and the unequal opportunities, and the over-policing of these people. In order for all of that to be fixed, they'd have to remove the entire leadership, including the judiciary, fire the police department, and start fresh and move to a reactive model to a proactive model, where instead of you waiting for somebody to call you and you run your ass down there and do something to somebody, no, you let us police ourselves, so when we see something coming, we can shut it down so everybody know everybody. And then if it gets out of control, we'll call you in and hand you over to them. And we'll go with you. So you'll end up accidentally shooting yourself in the back of the car with handcuffs on.
That's right.
Tomorrow, there may be some other armed groups here. Is it ever a concern when there's an armed group that's not NFAC alongside NFAC?
There won't be any armed groups alongside the NFAC. We do not allow that.
Alongside was the wrong word. In the same city. Here to...
This is a free country. They can go anywhere they want. But then again, I can climb into a lion's cage at the zoo, but do you think I'm going to do it? Just because I can do it doesn't make it a good idea. So those groups that'll be here, they where they at, we where we at. They stay on their side, we stay on our side. They come see us, they're going to regret it.
Some, well, let's say... Let me look at how I word my question.
Can y'all get out of the way?
I got you,
because she's with the news station. I told her to come. So.
A law enforcement officer discharged a weapon. What happens, because we know, we've seen the news, that there can be a bad actor in any group. And these 3%ers and the Oath Keepers and law enforcement, what could happen and what do you guys do?
You asked me what could happen if someone were to discharge a weapon. It's the same thing that would happen if somebody tossed a firecracker. Unless you're a trained individual with a firearm and you're prone to panicking all the time, it could result in lighting a match to gasoline and start something where countless people get shot and killed. But that's coulda, woulda, shoulda. However, if you want to know specifically from the NFAC, we have a rule of engagement. If you hear something, pick your target and don't make a mistake. Don't just shoot because you heard something. Identify where it came from. Whoever is closest to it, deal with it.
I know you have your own private methods of communication within the group. What are your public methods of communication? How would someone hear about you? How could they reach out? How do you organize? What social media platforms do you use?
None of the above. We're militia. We don't specialize in advertising.
That's right.
We just show up.
I'm going to ask a few more questions about the Boogaloo Boys just because they're also in our story. Do you ever come across people using the Boogaloo hashtag connected with the NFAC hashtag?
I've never seen anybody hashtag the Boogaloo Boys with our hashtag now.
Do they seem less problematic than other militias given some of the things that they're about?
I don't know why they want to ask us all these questions about the Boogaloo Boys, because we've heard their own people tell us that they're insignificant. So we're not worried about them. We don't focus on the enemy. We're focused on our people.
That's right.
Does the NFAC identify with any sort of black separatism?
When you say separatist movement, ask me if the NFAC identifies with them. I mean, that's a tricky question, but let me see if I can restate it to you. Is the NFAC entertaining a separatist movement? Yes, the hell we are, and let me break it down to you. You see, the first thing that you have to understand is we talk about reparations all the time. We talk about repatriation all the time. We talk about restitution all the time. But what nobody seems to understand is you cannot repatriate a color. You give reparations to a country. Okay? Every reparation that's paid by the United States is paid to a country. So before we can talk about separating, we have to turn ourselves first from being black, which is a classification, to becoming a liberated nation within the nation of the United States. How do we do that? We file our liberation with the World Court and the UN and declare every last one of us a political prisoner and a descendant of slavery, and even the ones that have migrated here. Then, once we've done that, we now form the United Black Nation. Now we can petition the World Court and the UN for assistance, because we need redress of our action. Redress of our action means one of two things. First, that the UN orders the United States. And this is of all those half-ass listening people out there who only hear what they want to hear. They either order them, not us go charging in gung-ho. That's what the people did who invaded this country, committed genocide against the people in this country, stole the land in this country, and then enslaved us in this country. That's what they did. That's not how we work. We filed through the UN and then let them make a mandate that the United States does one of two things. Either A, carve out some land for us that we can call our own and determine our own destiny. We know they're not going to do that shit. They're not going to give us anything because they gave back the shit they stole. So why would they do that? We already know they're not going to do this. So all y'all who want that take Texas shit, kiss my ass.
That's right.
But the second piece is, if they're not going to do that, then don't stand in their way when they exodus from this place to go somewhere where they can have their own. And everybody, I don't want to leave, I want to stay in the master's house. Fuck that. Let me tell you why you don't do that. Because if we all leave and not go to someone else's country, but go to two countries that want us and say, would you carve out an area between the two of them about this big around, and y'all agree to protect us the same way they did Israel when they stood up Israel, until we can get on our feet and build our infrastructure and build our trade and build our own money system and build our own government and build our own military to the point where we can take care of ourselves. Then we'll come back and say to the United States, about that $14 trillion you owe us for the 400 years of slavery, we need to get that, you delinquent. We cannot win here. We're outnumbered.
Those were all my questions. Is there anything that I missed? Anything you want to go over again? Anything that I didn't ask that you feel like I should have asked?
No, except I'm going to go ahead and close up by saying if you're interested in joining the NFAC, you can email us at info@blacknfac.com. The website is not open. You can't get in. The only people who can get in are our members. No one can infiltrate us that way. But if you want to join, you meet the qualifications I talked about earlier in the show. Then send us your information and then give us the reason why. And then the council of black men and women will sit down and figure that out. Other than that, I want to say to the folks in Louisville, I'm glad to be here. Y'all wanted some muscle, so you got some muscle now. So let's see if we can get because all eyes on Bree.
Grandmaster, we have Wade TV3. One question for you.
So, what do you want to say to the people who have been living here, you know, seeing everything transpire, seeing their neighborhoods go, you know, from bad to worse to trying to get fixed up? What do you want people at home to know about what you guys want to do here? I know you mentioned that, you know, tomorrow you're going to demand answers. You're going to demand the people know what they deserve to know. What do you want them to know about why you're here?
Well, first, you asked two questions, so let me unpack those for you. The first answer is, you asked what were we going to do with regards to what these people need. We've also been in discussions all week long with every activist group, every organization, every fraternity of the melanin persuasion about what's going on here, so we can understand the environment. Let me let the chanters and the rainbow people go back first.
Tell them to stop the chanting. Somebody go stop the chanting.
Y'all. If it's your street, then fight for it. Anyway, one of the things that we've agreed to is that we can just come here and hang out and make demands and parade up and down your street. We're going to work along with these organizations so that they can institute community policing, even if we have to leave some of our people here to help them. And then come back to make sure that it's being done. At the same time, assist them with having the conversations with all of the felons and get the rights restored that were taken and be whole again, become the singles.
I know. I went up and said, stop chanting. He was like, no, bro.
Because we've been doing it for the last 5 years straight. I led 33,000 people across the altar right now.
We don't do it like this in my house. We don't do it like this, do we, Lord?
We chanted,
now I gotta show my ass.
We did all of that.
This is
What's
my man
changed?
right here. We
Nothing.
don't do it like
It's only
this.
gotten worse.
We don't do it like
What is
this.
the definition of insanity, my dear? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's why.
So without these protesters, do you think that you guys would be here right now if it weren't for their level?
Obviously, you just got here. I explained to you there are 4 levels. What they're doing is level 2. We're level 4. They raise awareness, which they have. But they've raised your awareness or not. And you're still not getting results. Now you got to go into the toolbox.
Yes.
Right.
And take out something a lot stronger.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's all I want to say on that question.
I completely agree on that.
All right. Well, you guys anything else? I kind of popped in on it.
I know I saw you slide in.
Yeah, back there.
You gonna be all right? Are we done?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll get that mic off you. Hey, Ryan. Thank you.
Grandmaster Jay.
Thank you for joining. This is great.
Hey, that's Grandmaster Jay with NFAC, not fucking around coalition. I'm fucking around. Hey, when they come, they mean business. Definitely.
All right, peace. That I know the answer.
Honor.